assessment, ang magbibigay ulat po niyan ay walang iba kundi si Ilya Adalio. Ilya Adalio ba? Tama ba yung pagkakaano ng aking po? Ila Marie Aliado. Ano ba yan? Aliado. Pasensya na, please. O, teka lang ha. Sige na, kaya mo na yan, Aliado, ba?
Thank you, Kuya Mel. So, assessment is the first step in social work helping process. What is assessment? Assessment, according to Max Boring, assessment is defined as the process and product of understanding on which action is based. Also termed as diagnosis in social study, involves a collection of necessary information and its analysis and interpretation. Also, I will discuss the four types of sources. To begin with, primary source, or defined as the client. In addition, the secondary sources is what we call the significant others. Another pertinent point is the existing source, or which is what are the records and reports. And it will end with the worker's own observation. Also, there are 5 principles in data gathering. First, the client should be the main source of information. When appropriate, available sources should be used by the client. Second, data to be gathered should directly relate to the identified problems. So, which means the data that are meant to be collected are relate to the identified problems. Third, the client should be informed about the source used for data collection. In certain cases, his permission should be sought before certain kinds of information are obtained. In every situation, we should ask the clients for information before collecting data. Fourth, the collection is a continuous process, but it is the collection, organization, and synthesis of such data that is especially critical to the definition of the problem and setting of goals. Last, the type of client and the general nature of the problem can guide the worker on the type of data that should be collected and how much. Stop. Next, I will discuss the initial contact with client and take. First, the client initiates the contact. An individual, a couple, or representatives of an organization or community may, on their own, seek the help of an agency, social worker about a concern or problem for which they think the worker is in position to help. The statement talks about if the person has the problem, he initiates to contact the social worker which he or she think might help her or him. Second, the client is referred to the worker or agency by some interested or concerned party, a relative, neighbor, teacher, and etc. Say for example, in this statement that when you see a person who is suffering from any problem, you can refer her or him to an social worker which you think might help them. Third, the agency, through the social worker, reaches out to the potential client and offers help. Many our agencies do such outreach effort because few people are aware of the existing community agencies and the service they offer, or many too shy or are not adequately motivated. The intake process and presenting problem. What is intake? Intake is a process by which potential client achieves the status of a client. On the client's part, this involves the presentation of the self and the problem or need as he or she experiencing. On the worker's part, this involves some assessment of the client and the problem, and whether or not the agency in possession to help. A good intake interview should provide the client with adequate understanding of the agency and its policy and program in relation to the need or problem. Consider the following account. Aling Naina approached me, looking very distressed. She looked like she had been crying a lot. She told me her neighbors in Dalam Binondo suggested that she apply to our agency for assistance. She said that the 8-year-old son had been lying to her coffin for 6 days. He died of pneumonia caused by sobrang laro sa ulan. The boy is the second of their 6 children. Her husband is unemployed, having been told by his employer to just go back to work pag magaling na ang kanyang pulmon. She described boy for the last 6 days. They had been trying to raise money for the son's burial, but they have been able to raise only a very small amount. In presenting the problem is that a threat to the clients or others' welfare, and usually stated or presented as it being perceived or experienced. In working in a small group, a worker does include on a group intake interview. Defining the problem by Compton and Galloway. The way you define the problem will define the data collected and will dictate what are seen as appropriate answers. Problem for workplace of beginning together, which means problem or part of the problem that has the client system is most important or a good beginning place. Second, the problem or part of the problem that in the worker's judgment is most critical. Third, the problem or the part of the problem that in the worker's judgment can most readily yield to help. Fourth, the problem or the part of the problem that falls within the action parameter of the helping system. The client's presenting problem. If the problem or the part of the problem the client system feels is most important, it may serve as the problem for work. If the client system presents multiple problems, the worker may use partialization, the process of separating from so many problems identified by the C and W. The problem that need to be addressed first and will be the focus on the helping relationship. Prioritizing, which means the added aspect of a problem taking precedence over the problem because of its importance. There are the components of assessment statement by Maria O'Neill McMahon. First, the opening casual statement. This requires the worker to clearly indicate who has the problem and why the problem exists at a time. Second, change potential statement. A statement, a problem's change potential is dependent on three and the interdependent factors: your problem, person, and environment. The problem is the worker and the contact system consider the nature of the problem in its changes potential by answering the following question: can this problem be resolved? Second, is the nature of the problem been irreversible? Person, the worker needs to assess the strength and weaknesses of the person having the problem. Third, the environment, and considering the environment in which the problem located. This is the last components of an assessment statement by Maria O'Neill McMahon. the judgment about the seriousness or urgency of the problem. Also, lastly, I will discuss the characteristic of assessment. First is the ongoing. Second, the focus is on understanding the client and situation and providing a base of planning and action. Third, a mutual process between client and worker. Fourth, there is movement within the assessment process. Fifth, both horizontal and vertical exploration are important. Sixth, assessment identifies needs and life situations, defines problem, and explains their meaning and patterns. 7. Assessment is individualized. 8. Judgment is important in assessment because many decisions to be made. Last, no assessment is ever complete. Thank you. Back to you, Kuya Mel.
Bulaga! Huwag niyo napansinin yung outfit ko. I'm sorry. Na-realize ko kasi ang init-init pala ng nagja-jacket ako. So, eto na. Oo. Roronda ako mamaya, tanod ako. Wala kayong pakialam. Anyway, maraming salamat. Ila na nga lang. Ila Marie Aliado. Pasensya na, nauho kasi ako. Thank you so much for bringing up the topic of assessment.